You know, several years ago, I heard Justice Breyer speak, and he was talking about American history and the bloody wars Christians were waging against one another. And he said, when they finally got tired of spilling blood, they said to each other, "To you, your religion, and to me, mine." And I nearly jumped out of my seat. I thought to myself, has Justice Breyer read the Quran? Because there is a verse in the Quran that says, "To you, your religion, and to me, mine." And recently, I have been thinking that isn't this the ultimate goal of a sane and pluralistic society that we call America? To you, your religion, and to me, mine. Aren't these the foundational values on which America was founded? And today, this ideal is especially needed in the face of what we call shifting cultures. A little bit about myself. I am here not only as a Muslim, but also as an American, as a woman, as an immigrant, as a wife. I was born in a paradise called Kashmir, and I was born in India to a Muslim family. Like I said, I was sent to Catholic school for 11 years and recited the Lord's Prayer 3,500 times in my life. My teachers were Hindu. I climbed mountains and trees with Sikh girls, and we bought freshwater pearls from Buddhists every year. And we were always told that we were from the lost 10th tribe of Israel. So at the age of 16, when I landed in Jericho, Long Island, I landed in a 99% Jewish neighborhood. And my religious education, I believe, was complete. And during my own childhood, I discovered the value of celebrating multiple cultures and honoring all religions. But it is here in America, the New World, that I actually discovered the value of my own religion. Could I be American and be Muslim? I would ask myself. Could I be modern and be a Muslim? Could I be religious and remain committed to the separation of church and state? These were many of the questions that I had to ask myself. But moved by this religious and cultural diversity that had shaped my worldview and characterized my entire life, I wanted to do something for the benefit of others. Don't ask me how this happened, but I wound up marrying an imam. And in 1997, I established American Society for Muslim Advancement for all those souls that were struggling with their own faith, trying to define their legs in America, and to create the natural bridge building that I had seen in my own childhood, where I did not see any conflict between religions. And all these years until last year, I was living in a state of euphoria. I was in a bubble. I loved that bubble, believing that the world was my oyster and that I could achieve almost anything that I set my heart out to be. And everything was attainable in America. But alas, the past year altered that worldview. Yes, we can attain anything in America. I still maintain that. But not without a struggle. Professor Amina just told you about all the other people that have struggled in this country. Well, it's our turn. The struggle for acceptance is part of our history. And it can be traced back with almost every minority group and every minority religion that has come on shores in America. And it just so happens that we, Muslims, are carrying this cross right now. And shaping religion in America has not been easy for our predecessors either. In fact, it's a daunting task for all religions. Today, Muslims are undergoing the same trials of re-expressing the eternal truths and values of their own religion within the cultural modality of America. This is very exciting work as a religion Americanizes. And most Muslims will tell you that America is the most Islamic country in the world. You might ask, what do they mean by that? Many will say the Quran speaks of humankind as one nation under God. Well, we find that here. In fact, it's written all over our currency. Right? You pick a penny and it's there, and you pick a dollar bill, it's there, in God we trust. The Quran speaks of one creator. We find that in America also. We're all endowed by the creator. The Quran speaks of human equality. So is it any wonder why Muslims believe that America is an Islamic country? It's because it holds up the ideals that Muslims believe are the core values of Islam. And Muslim jurists even wrote 1,000 years ago about 6 principles of Islamic law: the right to life, the right to practice your religion, the right to own property, the right to have a family, the right to develop one's intellect, what you're all doing here, and the right to dignity. How similar to what our founding fathers said when they said, we declare that they declare that we are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, amongst which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And at one point, it was property. So we Muslims believe that Islamic values and American values are the same. So where does this problem of unacceptance come from? When we feel that we're part of the value system, why do then they tell us that we don't belong to this value system? Where is this problem coming from? Well, it stems from what we call the I-thou polarity. You do not recognize yourself in me, and I do not recognize myself in you. And it can come in any variety of combinations. Arab against Jew, Catholics against Protestant. I want you to think about world conflicts as I'm saying this. Hutu versus Tutsi, white against black, Sunni versus Shia, Muslim versus Buddhist, Buddhist versus Hindu, man versus woman, and Mount Holyoke versus Smith. Boy, I didn't know which one it was. Got a real reaction there. What I'm trying to say is that this list is endless, and it can just go on and on and on. And believe it or not, God even complains about this in the Quran. Even God says, they divide themselves into groups, each delighting in what they have, asserting their own superiority, and then he says, leave them in their ignorance for a while. So it's unfortunately a part of our human condition to othering people and to saying that you don't belong to me and I don't belong to you. So today, in this day and age, where we have this wonderful gathering of all future leaders and thinkers, we have to demonstrate how utterly essential it is to demonstrate that when a crime is committed in the name of religion, it is actually the greatest crime against religion. Religion, ironically, is not often the source of the conflict, even though it may be the most visible difference between contesting groups. And that's why you always hear people say, oh, it's a war between Islam and the West, Islam and Christianity, Islam and Judaism. And as a result, it often gets blamed for the conflict. So it's really paramount for all of us, you great minds here, when religious conflicts do arise, strong voices must be heard that characterize the conflict for what it truly is and distance religion from it. When 9/11 happened, I was a happy, career-oriented woman. I had a 25-year corporate career in architectural design. And I was even working on the 106th floor of the World Trade Center towers for about 3 years, not at the time when the towers collapsed. And our mosque was only 12 blocks from ground zero. When 9/11 happened, we began to speak to audiences like yourself, churches, universities, think tanks, schools. And there were always a few questions that surfaced again and again and again, no matter what venue we were in. Why do the moderate Muslims never speak out? Where are your leaders and why don't they speak out? It was a constant refrain. So we could not think of a better expression to promote the peaceful values that we believed were fundamentally American values of our faith than to create a house that was dedicated to this kind of value system. A house that we called the Cordoba House. Many of you have heard a different name now, but that is what the center was called. Where American Muslims will stand together with their fellow citizens to condemn extremism and terror. It was a project that would honor those who were harmed on September 11th. A memorial that was supposed to be built into the center. It was a project which was to proclaim our commitment to this country. A project to celebrate America's core values of religious tolerance and to stand side by side with men and women of peace. And a project where Muslims could be part of the rebuilding of Lower Manhattan. After all, our faith was the one that was held responsible for destroying it. Who better to come and rebuild it? Where we could serve and give back to our community, where we could extend our hand and say, here we are, the moderate Muslims that you've always been asking for. We're opening ourselves to you, we're opening our doors to you. We have nothing to hide. You do not have to fear us. This center will be open center, and the doors are open to everyone. So why then didn't we have the right to formulate and promote what it really meant to be an American Muslim or a Muslim American?